The space station hung silently above the swirling violet clouds of Trellara, a planet whose atmosphere shimmered like liquid amethyst under the distant star. It was massive, with sleek, silver corridors and enormous observation windows that offered breathtaking views of the stormy skies below. The station wasn't just a home for scientists and explorers. It was a hub of intergalactic cooperation. Humans, aliens, and various other species worked side by side, trying to understand technology that no single race could master alone. Captain Jax Mercer strode through the central corridor, his boots clanging softly against the metal floor. He was a human, tall and wiry, with a confident posture that seemed to radiate calm in the face of chaos. Where others hesitated or doubted, Jax moved forward, always observing, always planning. Around him, crew members of multiple species scurried, some hurrying to labs, others adjusting delicate machinery. But despite the controlled chaos, something unusual hung in the air that day. In Lab 12, an alien scientist named Lyra moved swiftly, her long, lavender-colored fingers adjusting panels and conduits with precision. Her eyes, deep and reflective, darted toward a large, pulsating device at the center of the room. It was the heart of a joint experiment between humans and aliens, a technology designed to manipulate gravitational fields on a local scale. If it worked, it could make planetary construction easier, even allow for new methods of interstellar travel. But it was unstable, delicate, and dangerous if handled incorrectly. Lyra noticed Jax approaching, as she always did when humans got too close to her lab. "Captain Mercer," she said sharply, a note of warning in her voice. "Do not touch anything here, not a single panel. Not a single conduit. Humans cannot handle this technology safely." The device seemed alive, its inner energy flowing in patterns too complex for most to understand. "I'm not here to touch," he finally said, his voice calm. "Just observing." The experiment was about to begin a critical phase, and he noticed a subtle instability forming in the energy flow. If it continued, the device might overload, potentially causing catastrophic damage to the station. Lyra started the countdown. "Phase 1 in 5, 4, 3. The lights of the lab dimmed, replaced by the soft glow of the device's core. It pulsed rhythmically, a heartbeat of alien engineering. Suddenly, a sharp spike of energy shot through the device, and a series of alarms blared. Panels flickered, and a hiss of escaping gas echoed through the lab. Lyra's hands flew across the control interface, trying to stabilize it. Her long fingers moved faster than any human could follow, but the device didn't respond. The energy flow began to twist in unpredictable ways, threatening to damage the surrounding equipment. "Lyra, step aside," Jax said quietly, surprising even himself with how steady his voice was. "I will not. You will only make this worse," she snapped, her eyes wide with fear. But Jax already knew that the protocols she relied on weren't enough. The device was outside the range of anything standard. He could either stand by and watch it fail or act. He stepped forward. "Just watch me," he said, more to himself than to her. Lyra's arms crossed defensively. "Don't touch me again," she said, her tone now a mixture of warning and desperation. Jax grinned, not a grin of disrespect, but a confident grin that said he had a plan. He carefully reached toward the device, not recklessly, but with the calm precision of someone who had solved impossible problems before. His hands moved like dancers across the panels, adjusting circuits and rerouting power. He combined human intuition with his knowledge of alien theory, improvising solutions the manuals had never mentioned. The energy spike threatened again, but this time Jax was ready. With a final adjustment, the core stabilized. The pulsing returned to its regular rhythm, gentle and even. Lights came back on fully, and the alarm stopped. Lyra stared at him, stunned. You did it," she whispered. Jax shrugged lightly, his grin still in place. "I just followed the patterns." Humans see things a little differently. Sometimes it works. Even the most skeptical observers were impressed. Humans had a reputation for recklessness, but Jax's success proved something different. They could take risks and solve problems others wouldn't even dare approach. "Captain Mercer," Lyra said finally, her voice softer, tinged with respect. "Humans, you really do think differently. It's what keeps things interesting." Later in the observation lounge, Jax sat with a cup of synthetic coffee, gazing out at the planet below. He thought about the experiment and about Lyra. She had been cautious, maybe even a little fearful of humans, but now there was a hint of respect in her eyes. Humans had a way of earning trust without demanding it, simply by proving themselves in impossible situations. Lyra joined him quietly, sitting down without speaking at first. She looked out at Trelara's storms, her eyes reflecting the violet light below. "You really shouldn't have gone near that device," she said finally, almost to herself. Jax smiled faintly. "And missed the chance to see it work, not a chance. Humans, sometimes you act without thinking, but sometimes you're exactly what's needed." The day had proven that humans, with their courage and ingenuity, could succeed where others feared to try. They were bold, creative, and unpredictable, but never careless when it truly mattered. And as Jax looked at Lyra, he knew that their collaboration was only beginning. Humans had a lot to show in the galaxy, and he intended to keep proving it. The storm below raged on, wild and untamed, reflecting the human spirit itself, fierce, bold, and unafraid. The stabilized device in Lab 12 hummed gently, filling the room with a soft, rhythmic pulse. What had been a dangerous, unpredictable experiment the day before now radiated potential. Captain Jax Mercer stood nearby, leaning casually against a railing, his grin as steady as ever. He had solved the immediate problem, but he knew the real challenge was just beginning. Lyra, the alien scientist, paced the lab, her lavender-hued skin reflecting the soft glow of the device. She was still processing the events from the previous day. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable, bold, audacious, and capable of solving problems that aliens, bound by strict protocol, might never attempt. She had warned Jax not to interfere, yet here they were, safe, stable, and functioning. "I still can't believe it worked," she muttered, her voice more curious than accusatory. "You could have made things worse." But sometimes the only way to solve a problem is to risk a little. Humans aren't afraid of failure, we learn from it. It responds to thinking, to observation, to action. It isn't just following rules, it's waiting for someone to understand it. You take action where others hesitate, that's humans. "Not now," Lyra muttered, moving toward the panel. Jax followed her. "Looks like someone or something is trying to dock without clearance. Could be pirates or a rival faction." He wanted to act before anyone could breach the lab and potentially steal the alien device. "We can't wait," he said. "They could be dangerous, but we also don't know their intentions. Humans have a way of improvising." "Watch." Their suits had advanced shielding and weapons, but he noticed patterns in their movements. They relied heavily on technology, assuming their gear made them invincible. Humans, however, had a different approach: observation, improvisation, and courage. He quickly scanned the environment, spotting loose panels, maintenance shafts, and emergency conduits. With a few swift calculations, he realized he could use these features to redirect the intruders' attention and slow them down. Lyra followed cautiously. "You really think you can handle them without the security team?" "Just strategy." Inside the lab, Jax accessed the environmental controls. He rerouted airflow to create a sudden gust from the vents, pushing a dense fog of harmless mist into the corridor. The intruder's sensors, calibrated for heat and motion, misread the environment. Confused, the intruder paused, then backed up to regroup with the others. Lyra watched, amazed. This is like a game of chess. You think several moves ahead. "Now, Lyra," Jax whispered, "time for the final step. You're not even touching them." Security forces arrived moments later, ready to take over, only to find that the threat had already been neutralized. Lyra shook her head, a mix of disbelief and admiration on her face. I never imagined humans could handle a situation like this with such finesse. We take chances, but calculated ones. We improvise, adapt, and keep moving forward. Sometimes we break the rules a little, but it's always for a reason." Humans were often underestimated, but today they had shown their value, not through brute force, but through intelligence, courage, and bold creativity. Lyra looked at the device again, then at Jax. She saw the pattern now. Humans might bend rules, but they did so with skill, purpose, and respect for life. They were daring, yes, but not reckless. And in the unpredictable galaxy, such qualities were rare and invaluable. "Captain Mercer," she said finally, her voice steady, "humans, you are not what I expected. You are necessary. Perhaps more than I realized. And in doing so, they earned the respect of even the most cautious and skilled alien minds." As Jax and Lyra worked side by side, preparing the device for the next phase of the experiment, there was a sense of quiet camaraderie. Humans and aliens, each with their unique strengths, were beginning to understand each other better. Trust had been forged, not by words alone, but by action, courage, and clever thinking. And in the back of his mind, Jax knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of challenges, and humans would continue to prove themselves, not through violence, but through audacity, intelligence, and unyielding determination. The stars beyond the station gleamed brightly, promising adventures and discoveries that awaited those brave enough to take them. Captain Jax Mercer, ever bold, ever confident, was ready. And for once, Lyra found herself genuinely looking forward to seeing what humans would do next. The hum of the space station was a constant companion, a soft, steady rhythm against the chaos that sometimes erupted beyond its walls. For Captain Jax Mercer, it was comforting. He moved through the corridors with purpose, his mind already planning the next step in the experiment that had nearly brought the station to its knees. Lyra walked beside him, still amazed by what had happened in Lab 12. The intruders were gone, the device was stable, and yet she could not shake the feeling that the galaxy itself seemed to be testing them. Humans were daring, yes, but their boldness often attracted attention from those who preferred caution and control. "Captain," Lyra began, her voice hesitant, "I think we need to consider security measures. The last intruders, they were skilled, organized. There may be more. We find patterns, weaknesses, and opportunities. We solve problems without making them worse." The storms were beautiful, dangerous, and unpredictable, much like the challenges humans often faced. "You really trust humans so much?" Lyra asked quietly. "I trust humans to act when others hesitate," Jax said, eyes on the storm. "We see what needs to be done even if it scares others. We act, and we learn fast from mistakes." Humans were not reckless. They were bold in ways that were purposeful and intelligent. That combination was rare in the galaxy. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. The station's communication panel flashed red, signaling a priority message. Jax activated it immediately. "This is Commander Trellan of the Gorinthian Fleet," a deep, resonant voice echoed through the speakers. "We have detected unusual energy readings from your station. Your recent experiments may be destabilizing nearby sectors. Report immediately. We'll need to analyze it. But that doesn't mean we can't handle this. The device is stable here, but it's creating minor distortions outside the station. That's what the Gorinthians detected. Nothing dangerous, just unusual. Humans don't just talk, we show. It's not dangerous. It's responding to something external, Trellara's magnetic storms." His hands moved like skilled musicians across the controls, intuitive yet precise. Lyra followed, assisting where she could, though she could not match his speed or improvisational skill. Within minutes, the fluctuations stabilized. The device's pulses became rhythmic again, perfectly synchronized with the planet's magnetic waves. Lyra stared at him in disbelief. "You did it again," she said softly. "Humans, you just solved another impossible problem." She had studied alien technology for decades, yet humans approached it in ways she could never have imagined. Bold, creative, fearless, but not reckless, every action was calculated, purposeful, and effective. "Now," Jax said, standing and brushing his hands off, "we prepare the report. Data, visuals, everything. We'll show them exactly what's happening and why it's safe." The commander's voice was stern, but there was a note of surprise. "Report received. Your data is comprehensive. The readings align with your explanation. The device is not a threat. Human ingenuity is impressive." Humans had once again proven their worth, not through violence, but through intelligence, courage, and creative thinking. But as they celebrated quietly, a new alert sounded. This one was unexpected. The station's sensors detected multiple vessels entering the outer orbit. "They're coming back," Lyra said, her voice tense. "The intruders, or someone worse." "Then we prepare. Humans don't run from challenges. We face them, adapt, and overcome." The incoming vessels were fast, maneuvering skillfully. Jax studied their movements, analyzing every approach vector, every possible weak point. He instructed Lyra to activate the station's defensive systems in a way that would delay the intruders without causing harm, alarms, force fields, and temporary barriers. "They'll think they have an advantage," Jax said. "But humans don't fight the way they expect. We use their assumptions against them." The intruders attempted to dock again, but Jax had anticipated every move. The corridors, the doors, even the environmental systems were all subtly altered to make the intruders approach slower, more complicated. Without a single shot fired, humans were gaining the upper hand. Lyra watched, awestruck. You're not even confronting them directly." "Sometimes the best way to win is to stay one step ahead." Humans think ahead, we improvise, we adapt, and we never stop observing. Lyra finally exhaled. I don't understand how you do it. Humans, you solve problems that seem impossible. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we always learn. The station returned to its normal rhythm once more. Scientists resumed their work, carefully monitoring the device and the station systems. Jax and Lyra worked side by side, preparing for the next phase of the experiment, a quiet understanding forming between them. Humans were not reckless. They were daring, intelligent, and unafraid to act when others hesitated. And as they looked out at the swirling storms of Trelara below, both knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of challenges, and humans were ready to meet them head-on, not through force, but through courage, creativity, and boldness that could inspire even the most cautious alien minds. The space station hummed with controlled energy as Jax Mercer walked through the corridors, a calm confidence in his stride. Trelara's storm swirled below, casting shifting violet shadows through the massive observation windows. For weeks, the station had been a hub of research, diplomacy, and discovery, yet Jax knew that the galaxy had a way of testing even the most prepared. Lyra moved beside him, carrying a datapad filled with the results of their latest experiments. "Captain Mercer," she said, her voice cautious, "the readings from the device are still stable, but there are fluctuations in the outer sectors. I think other forces are nearby. Any misstep could trigger an accident, or worse, attract unwanted attention." Jax crouched beside the device, his fingers tracing the conduits without touching them, observing the flow of energy. Lyra watched him closely. "You really understand it, don't you?" she asked softly. "I understand enough," Jax replied. "Not every detail, not every formula, but enough to see the patterns. That's all humans need. Patterns tell us how to act, and that's where the rest comes from. They're organized far more than before." Jax moved swiftly through the control panels, observing the incoming fleet and calculating possible strategies. "They expect a direct confrontation," he said, pointing to the readouts. "But humans don't fight the way others do. We improvise, we use our brains before our brawn." "Much bigger." The sensors of the fleet's ships misread the signals, their instruments interpreting the mist as an obstacle. "Captain, they're adjusting their trajectory," Lyra noted, impressed despite herself. "Your improvisation is working. We create opportunities where others see barriers." Lyra worked alongside him, activating the station's defensive drones in a way that didn't harm the intruders but created obstacles they couldn't ignore. The fleet's coordination faltered and their progress slowed. "Humans don't rely on force," Lyra said, her tone a mix of awe and disbelief. "You rely on creativity, on observation, and yet it's just as effective. Brains over brawn, strategy over brute force. That's what makes humans formidable." "This is incredible. You've neutralized an entire fleet without a single casualty." Their ships powered down and withdrew from the station's orbit, leaving the station and its crew safe. Lyra exhaled, relief evident in her expression. I can't believe this. Humans, you handle impossible situations with intelligence and courage. And we don't give up until we find a solution. Captain Mercer, humans are different. Bold, yes, fearless, yes, but you're also careful, strategic. You take risks, but calculated ones. That combination, it's rare in the galaxy. And we keep moving forward. Life continued, but the lessons of the day remained clear. Humans were not just participants in the galaxy. They were innovators, problem solvers, and protectors in ways that others could not always understand. Jax looked out at the storms of Trelara, the planet's violent beauty mirrored in his own restless energy. The galaxy was full of challenges, full of puzzles waiting to be solved. And humans, with their ingenuity, boldness, and unyielding determination, were ready for whatever came next. Lyra stood beside him, a quiet respect in her gaze. "Captain Mercer, I think I'm beginning to understand humans. You face danger differently, you act when others hesitate, and somehow, you inspire confidence. And we learn from others too. Even aliens have valuable lessons to teach." Fierce, unpredictable, and beautiful, the planet reflected the human spirit itself, bold, clever, and unafraid. Lyra realized something important. Humans were not reckless. They were calculated, daring, and capable of rising to challenges that others feared. They earned respect not through intimidation, but through action, courage, and intelligence. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of danger. But with humans like Jax Mercer, there was hope. Hope that challenges could be met, problems could be solved, and cooperation between species could achieve what no one could do alone. The storms of Trelara continued to rage, yet inside the station, a sense of calm and confidence prevailed. Jax and Lyra returned to Lab 12, ready to continue their work, their partnership strengthened by the day's events. Humans had proven themselves once again, bold, intelligent, and unafraid to act when others hesitated. And in doing so, they had earned not just success, but trust and respect across the galaxy. The space station above Trelara had never been quieter. The usual hum of engines and distant echoes of crew members were present, but beneath it all, a sense of anticipation lingered. Captain Jax Mercer moved through the corridors with his usual confident stride, observing, calculating, and preparing. This time, the challenge ahead felt larger than anything before. Lyra walked beside him, holding a datapad filled with readings from Lab 12. The alien device pulsed steadily, its energy flowing in harmony with the planet's magnetic storms below. But reports from the outer sectors indicated an unusual energy surge that extended far beyond the station's immediate orbit. Something, or someone, was attempting to manipulate the same energy patterns, and the potential consequences were unknown. "This could be serious," Lyra said, her voice measured but tense. "If another fleet or group is interfering with the energy fields, the consequences could be catastrophic. It could destabilize entire sectors." "This is no different." The device hummed, its rhythm strong but slightly fluctuating in response to the unseen energy outside. Jax crouched beside it, studying the flow. "It's interacting with something external," he said. "We need to harmonize it, or the surge could cause instability beyond the station. We don't even know who or what is causing this." Even though she had more knowledge of the alien technology, Jax's unconventional methods and quick thinking complemented her expertise perfectly. Hours passed. They worked tirelessly, tracking energy patterns, predicting potential surges, and adjusting the device in real time. Finally, a clear signal emerged. A fleet of sleek, unknown vessels was approaching, attempting to synchronize their technology with the station's device. Their intentions were unclear, but their coordination suggested intelligence and strategy. "They're trying to manipulate the device," Lyra whispered. "They could disrupt the entire experiment, or worse." "Then it's time for humans to do what we do best: observe, adapt, and act." "Lyra," he said, "we're going to use their assumptions against them. They think they're in control, but we'll show them how humans handle impossible odds." Harmless energy pulses would temporarily disable their systems, not to harm, but to confuse. The fleet's own coordination would work against them, slowing their approach. Lyra studied him, awe in her eyes. "You really believe this will work?" Sensors picked up their movements, precise and deliberate, yet predictable in subtle ways. Jax directed the station systems to send controlled pulses through the corridors and outer docking bays, creating the effect of instability. The fleet misread the signals, their ships hesitating, recalibrating, and ultimately slowing their advance. Lyra observed, astonished. "You're controlling them without firing a single shot." The fleet systems misinterpreted the signals as potential hazards, forcing them to adjust constantly. Every move Jax made, every adjustment, increased confusion and hesitation. Hours of subtle maneuvering passed. The fleet tried to regroup, but every adjustment Jax had made anticipated their strategy. They were slowed, redirected, and ultimately unable to dock or interfere with the station's operations. Lyra exhaled. "I can't believe this. Humans, you've neutralized an entire fleet with intelligence and foresight alone." "We adapt, improvise, and act when others hesitate." "Humans, you are not just bold, you are essential. Your creativity, courage, and intelligence make the impossible achievable." She had witnessed firsthand the audacity, intelligence, and resilience of humans. They faced challenges that others feared, solved problems that seemed impossible, and did it all without unnecessary harm. As the storms of Trelara swirled below, Jax and Lyra returned to the lab. The device pulsed steadily, fully harmonized with the planet's magnetic storms. The data was being recorded, analyzed, and shared with the Alliance, proving that humans could solve even the most complex challenges with ingenuity and courage. Crew members quietly acknowledged the humans' role in the day's events. Across the station, whispers of admiration spread. Humans were no longer just participants. They were leaders, innovators, and problem solvers in ways that inspired others. Lyra stood beside Jax, observing the device. I think I understand now. Humans, you act differently. You don't follow the same rules, but you achieve results that others cannot. You inspire confidence, respect, and trust. Humans do what they must, what they can. We don't always follow protocol, but we never abandon responsibility. Courage and creativity go hand in hand with care. That's enough to make a difference. Lyra placed a hand lightly on the console, glancing at Jax. Captain Mercer, I think the galaxy is ready to see what humans can do, and so am I now that I understand you. We rise to them. The planet below was violent and unpredictable, yet beautiful, much like the challenges of life in the galaxy. Humans thrive in uncertainty, Jax said quietly. We act when others hesitate, we solve problems others think impossible, and we inspire others to do the same. You face challenges with determination and intelligence. You earn respect through action, not force. I've learned much from you, Captain Mercer. Together, we're stronger. And as the stars beyond the station gleamed brightly, Jax Mercer knew one thing for certain. Wherever there were challenges, mysteries, or problems that seemed unsolvable, humans would rise to meet them. Bold, brilliant, and unafraid, they would continue to shape the galaxy in ways others could not. Lyra glanced at him, smiling. The galaxy will never be the same once it truly understands humans. Captain Jax Mercer and the humans aboard the station had shown that when courage meets intelligence, no challenge was too great, and no obstacle could stand in the way of those willing to act boldly. The galaxy waited, full of mysteries and dangers, yet ready for the humans who dared to rise to every challenge. And Captain Jax Mercer, ever bold and ever clever, would be there to lead the way.